If you watch this video until the end and apply everything that I will be telling you and still don't get the offer that you want, you can personally send me your resume on LinkedIn and I will be giving you a personal resume review for 100% free. If you don't know who I am, my name is Hamon and I help the younger generation get better work and academic opportunities by showing my perspective studying all around the world throughout my undergraduate program. Today, I'm going to be giving you the most important insights that you can do to build a very strong CV. Over the past few years, I've mentored more than 50 people on how to construct a better CV. Some of them got very important scholarships at good universities. Others who are already in university have gotten multiple offers, both for internships and full-time offers across many areas. So without further ado, let's go straight into it. The first thing that I want you to do is to open Notion, a notebook, anything of your choice that you can write on, and create a list of all the experiences that you consider good that you have up until right now. The goal of this is that we are going to slowly trim these experiences throughout this video so that you have selected only the best experiences that have the biggest fit with the opportunity that you're trying to apply to. Pause the video. I'm going to give you a couple of seconds. 3, 2, 1. So the second thing that you are going to be thinking about is the area and the program that you're applying to. This portion will involve lots of research, and this is because different opportunities that you are going to apply to will require different experiences. And I think the connection of this is very clear. A person applying for example medical school will have a totally different background from a typical person that would get admitted for engineering school. The goal here is that you do a thorough research to be able to understand the opportunity that you are applying, the type of applicant that generally gets admitted into these programs, and after you've made a collection of many of these results, you've gone across multiple websites and preferably also the actual website of the recruiters, you are going to note down a list of some adjectives that describe this person. Also, if they involve technical experience, soft skills, you also need to write that down so that we are able to re-go in the next step through our activities and trim them down. Okay, so now that you've already done your research, I would like you to separate the list of activities that you already made in the first step between 3 categories. The first one is going to be your academic experiences, the second one will be your professional experiences, and lastly, you will have a personal/extra category, which will basically go for experiences that you think are very relevant to you, but do not necessarily fit into the other categories. After you've done this, what we're going to do is try to rank these experiences in relevance to the experience that you're applying to. And most people here struggle a little bit because it is very hard to put into perspective what is considered a good experience and what is not. And here I give you a very important heuristic. The thing that most people get wrong when they're applying to these types of opportunities is because they can't distinguish between what is something that they personally find very important and experiences that are valued for that role. The thing here is that you are going to try to, at the same time, showcase that you are ready for the experience that you're applying to and showing that you are an interesting person, which is, for me, the most important part because it distinguishes you from the rest of the competitors who are also able to perform the job. These other parts that show that you are an interesting person will generally be the types of things that you will start commenting on another interview, but you also need to foreshadow that a little bit. So how exactly do you trim these opportunities down to around 3 to 5 per each one of these segments between academic, professional, and personal? And the thing is, you can basically include any experience that you want there. However, the farthest away from the job that you're applying the opportunity is, the biggest impact it will need to have to be worth considering. Imagine you just won a gold medal at the Olympics. Even though you are applying for a computer science job, that feels like a noteworthy achievement that you could put it there. You just have to also prove to the recruiters that you have the technical skills to be able to perform that job, but it would still make an interesting conversation if you include that experience there. This is a very good example of one thing that is totally unrelated to your job, but that might also go there. Also, the last thing is that I would advise you to do a split of around 80% of your activities being related or directly related to the opportunity that you're applying to, and leaving a space of around 20 to 30% for other things that might impress the reviewer, even though they might not be directly related to the opportunity. So now that we've covered most of our bases, it is time to actually put your things onto the CV. So the overall structure that I would suggest to you for your CV is to first put your education, then a section with your experiences where you will include like 1 or 2 experiences, then you're going to go to a section of leadership and community impact. This is very important because it also showcases that you are a person that cares about society and who has a leadership role. You can also include a simple section with projects or technical projects. So this is a place where you would talk about an organization that you participated in, maybe something that you founded. It can be something simple, but again, something that showcases that you have leadership and that you can influence other people. After all, communication is one of the most important skills that you can have at work. You want to showcase to the recruiter that you have those skills. You can just do at the very bottom one simple section showing some languages that you speak. If you happen to be bilingual, trilingual, this might be a good place to include them. You can also include some technical skills, especially if you are in technology. These are somewhat valued, and the goal is that you are able to structure all of these experiences in under one page. There are some places where two-page resumes are accepted. I personally suggest that you keep them to under one page. Even though you might be able to send bigger resumes, it is also good to practice this ability to just trim it all down to one page so that you have a very strong first impression on the recruiter. Then after we have added the title, the role, the duration of each one of these experiences, you're also going to add the description. You add between 1 and 3 bullet points, even though 2 is preferred. And my suggestion here is that you follow a very simple sentence structure that will cover from beginning to end what you did in that experience. One of the mistakes that people, when writing their resumes, make is that they write about the role of the organization and not about what they themselves contributed to the organization while they were in that role. Here, I would suggest that you start by writing what you did, then you are going to transition that sentence to explaining how you did it, and later you are going to talk about the results that had in the company or in the organization that you were part of. For example, if you were the president of the Model UN team at your university, you can say that you've presided over the Model UN team with, let's say, 35 plus members at your university, participating in more than 40 conferences throughout 2 years and achieving a total of 50 plus awards throughout the conferences. The idea is always that you start presenting what you did, how you did it, or specifying a little bit about that experience, and then talking a little bit about the impact that had. Before I show you my own CV, I'd just like to add that all of these are heuristics, and that to really craft a CV that best adapts to your own experiences, you should use this as a somewhat adaptable structure so that you are able to truly showcase your experiences. Let's say that you have many technical projects. You can also add, for example, a hyperlink that is going to direct to your portfolio where you can show more of that. Most of the times, this will not present itself as any problem to the recruiters, but you just have to be very careful most of the times because AI has become more and more common for CV analysis. So most of the time, if you have an AI analyzing your resume, it will most often than not go back to the most common structure that most people use and that recruiters are expecting. So just bear that in mind when you're trying to go out of that structure, but at the same time, don't forget to add a little pinch of creativity because that also helps. So now that we're here, I'm going to show you 3 examples of resumes that I could find. Here is an example of what you should not be doing in your resume. I recommend that you use somewhat of a similar format, but most important than this, I would like to be sharing a little of the evolution of my CVs. This was the first CV that I made soon after entering university. So I just put economics, data analysis, Bayesian statistics, algorithms, and modeling. At the time, I didn't exactly have these courses yet. This was mostly just exploratory, not the best so far. I also put some of my experiences, but without quantifying absolutely anything. You can see here monthly meetings with journalists. Didn't specify what exactly about it I took from the experience. I just said utilized Python for data collection. Didn't say anything about the data collection specifically. I also talked a little bit about my experience in Model UN and debate, but you can take a look here that most of the things that I talked about are not related to finance at all. Later, I decided that I didn't want to go into this career, which I'm very glad because I really didn't have any experience. One thing that I wanted to mention here that I put, for example, financial modeling, even though none of the experiences that I mentioned there are related to financial modeling. So that's a good tip of what not to do in your resume. Let's go to the next one. This is a little bit more updated. This is from the first portion of 2025. So after around 1 semester in university, I still didn't have that many experiences, but I already have had, for example, a GPA, a little bit of a better notion of what I should put in my courses. So the courses that I put there were more related to what I was actually doing. I started incorporating a little bit of the things that I was talking about, for example, about stocking the impact of the experiences that I had in the description of the experiences. So relationship between the IBOM, I talked about what that was, didn't exactly specify any outcomes of that. Here, another thing that I wanted to mention is that I decided to completely overrule the community impact part of it, just because I didn't exactly have that much experience. I decided to merge it with the community impact or leadership experiences that I had. So that's one of the applications of that principle that I mentioned earlier that you can, for example, adapt the structure of this resume. And then if you see the accomplishment and projects, for the first time I actually had some projects in tech, so I decided to start talking about some of the hackathons that I had in SF during my first year, and my technical stack became better than the first time just because now I actually had some tech stack to talk about. Lastly, this is the resume that I'm currently using. You can see here that I introduced 2 new sections, for example my GitHub and interviews, where I basically just point to some journal coverage that I've received when I got accepted to university abroad. I also decided to not put my GPA, even though it's not necessarily a bad GPA, I just was advised not to by the app review team in my university, so I didn't put it. You can see that I have a very brief description of what my university is about. I didn't put anything related to my courses. That's one of the things that I can be doing and I was advised on doing by the review team, so that's one of the review points. You can see that I actually had an internship experience doing the last summer in tech, so I definitely focused on that as showcasing my first experience. I also improved a little bit about my last experience in San Francisco. I decided to specify the number of rentals that we analyzed, describe briefly the results of that research that we did. Lastly, talking about my leadership, I decided to designate a section for those things. My technical projects got immensely better. Here I had the opportunity to talk about different aspects of my life. So I talked about, for example, my interest in football, my experience with the Millennium Fellowship, which talks about community impact and my experience helping people in my community. I had the opportunity to talk a little bit about my experience in Japan by doing policy advising for one of the cities that we went to in Japan called Kamaishi. I also inserted a little bit of the experience that I had during my last summer, which was creating chatbot that would basically try to check for products in an inventory and respond to the client in text-based format, in paragraph form. The last thing was to try to tailor a little bit more my technical experience to not include things that I just knew, but rather that were somewhat relevant to the experience that I was applying for. So in this case, if I had to take anything out of this, I would take off JavaScript just because I don't use it that much, and probably this growth hacking. I think this was one of the things that I put there just because I didn't want to leave it empty. In the end, I think that it's best to leave it concise and to prioritize things that you actually know doing than to just insert somewhat random things. Lastly, I just wanted to say that resumes, just like many things in life, don't necessarily have an end, so it's important that you keep reviewing and keep iterating over it and keeping it updated as you gather more experiences. So one of the best things that you can do is to ask for reviews. I fortunately have the university that does reviews for us 100% for free, so we can abuse that as much as we want. And in your case, I'm going to give you the exact same benefit as I told you in the beginning of the video if you follow through the advice that I gave you in this video and actually send me a message on LinkedIn, which I'm going to be linking below in the description. I'm going to give you a 100% free resume review so that you are able to achieve the opportunity of your dreams. The only thing that you need to do is just send a connection request on LinkedIn, and then after accepted, please send a message requesting the resume review saying that you've watched this video. I'm going to be very pleased to do it. So that's going to be it for the video. Once again, thank you for following through all of this. I wish you the best of luck in your preparation for the opportunities that you want to achieve. If you like this video and want to see more from this channel, feel free to support us in any way by subscribing, leaving a comment below, talking about how you liked the video, or simply leaving a suggestion on what we can improve. It will be very helpful. Thank you and have a nice day. Bye bye.